All right, welcome everybody to this week's edition of the Founders Pod. Grateful you could be joining us whenever you are, wherever you are. Happy that you can tune in to this week's edition. We're broadcasting from the United Commercial Insurance Studio. United Commercial Insurance, business insurance. Give us a call, 208-229-8222. Again, that's 208-229-8222. I'm here with my co-host, Matt Lamb. Matt, welcome.
Hey, good to be here. I'm excited. Today's going to be good.
It's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
We are Jordan-less.
Yeah, no Jordan today. He couldn't make it.
Yeah.
But we move on nonetheless.
Oh, yeah. I got a good one for everybody today. Grateful that this guest could join us. He's incredibly entertaining. He's got a YouTube series. You may have seen him already on the different, I saw him on Instagram initially, and Matt brought him up and said, hey, this guy's got a really cool story going. Banana Ron.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, I'm lucky and fortunate to be in the same city as you and be able to do this face-to-face. So
yeah.
I'm excited.
If you haven't seen anything on Banana Ron, incredible story. We'll get more into it later.
Yeah.
But Banana Ron, however you go, right?
See, I don't even want to say his last name.
Just call me Banana.
Yeah.
Banana. Ron, or Banana, Ron.
I learned his last name today, and I was a little disappointed.
Yeah.
It's better, I think, if you just know him as Banana Ron or Banana.
Yeah.
Well, this is the first time we've met.
It is.
So that's crazy. Anyway, we've seen him on the different social media out there. He's got a big YouTube channel where he logs and video logs everything that he's done, and we'll talk about more. But he kind of went across the country on a cool project, on a cool adventure we want to learn more about. You can check him out. If you search YouTube at The Banana Ron, you can also search Instagram and Facebook, Banana Ron, and you'll find out more about his stuff. Check him out for sure. Really interesting. But, yeah, we're excited to hear how you got into all of that.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to be here, guys. So I had, life, well, there's a famous speech from, was it the Apple CEO? Come on, help me out with his name real
Steve
quick.
Jobs.
Steve Jobs, about how you can't connect the dots looking forward, but after you get through the process, you can connect them looking back, right? And so fortunately and unfortunately, I guess however you want to cut it, 2014, all of a sudden out of nowhere, I was like a super athlete. I was actually in the startup space, and my life was going, really good. Like I always played my cards right, all the way through high school in terms of diet, nutrition, and decision making. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, I got this crazy autoimmune thing, and it just slammed the brakes, with my life. I went from being like, super, CrossFit athlete and stuff to all of a sudden not able to get out of a chair. And it happened in about a 2-month period. And so that went on for about 5 years. And then as soon as I figured out what the cause was, we addressed the cause. It's just an autoimmune type thing. And my wife and I, we had 3 young kids at the time. We're like, there's more to this, guys. We got to spike the mic. Let's mix everything up. And so we actually sold everything we owned here in Idaho, and we moved down to Costa Rica, sight unseen.
Get out.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the only reason I'm sharing the story is because that's kind of the origin of my name, right? And so I'm down there in Costa Rica and between Costa Rica and Panama for a while, and I had this dream. While I was sick, I'd like watch YouTube videos, like permaculture YouTube videos, and I went down this rabbit hole with all these like crazy, rare, exotic tropical fruit trees that you've never heard of.
So Costa Rica, I've seen that before, where people move down there because there's somewhat of a subculture of like, I guess, trying to cure your health issues. By non-Western medicine methods, right?
Western medicine.
And I've seen that from a few people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that why you went down there? Or?
Not necessarily. Like Western medicine got me sick, and Western medicine did not fix me. And so I don't think I've been to a doctor since then.
Right.
And that, and so I want to just go down because I'm like, I had this ruminating thought in my mind like the whole time this was going on. I have young kids, and I'm like, man, I just thought I had more time. That was my internal monologue, like looping in the back of my brain. And so now all of a sudden I got a second gifted life, and I'm like, dude, let's do this right. And I'm like, I just want to go do yoga and surf every day and eat coconuts and go frolic around in the jungle.
And your wife's like, okay.
I
guess. Yeah,
I'm
sure.
lucky, man. I must have done something really good in a past life because I got an amazing wife that just is down. She just supports all my bad decisions. And so it was great. I mean, so we're down there, and that's where the name Banana Ron came from. All my college buddies and guys I used to work with, they're like, "Do you just go buy a banana plantation, just kick it in the jungle?" I'm like, "That's it." And we'd still be there today if it wasn't for COVID. We're down there during COVID,
really?
and that was that changed our plans. And I kind of liked being in a country where I, native language speaker, and I understand the laws and how to navigate them. And so we came back to the U.S., during then. But I'll go back. I'll have a banana plantation here one day.
So are you originally from Boise?
I claim to be a native. I moved here in like 93. I think I was like
gotcha.
ninth grade. So
it's native enough.
It's native enough. Yeah. More than half my life here.
And then, so maybe just describe a little bit what your steps were in going through school and college and your first career, that type of thing. Like, what led you to kind of that decision to, I guess, go to Costa Rica? I mean,
So, it's just a natural process, right? Like, it's kind of funny. The last the last job I had, I worked at Pizza Hut, and I got fired in 1996. And
was the last.
That's the last job I had, was
as an
1996.
employee.
As an employee, got fired in 1996. And
wait, you moved here in 93?
Yeah. So
were you like 10 or something?
No, I moved here. I was like 15 when I moved here.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like 16, 17 when I got fired.
Which Pizza Hut was it?
Apple and Park Center.
Okay.
So it's a
down
gas
Boise.
station now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that best job
That's
I ever
crazy.
had. They said I wasn't Pizza Hut material. So I'm like, I got to figure something out, man.
Yeah, you got issues for sure. So did your parents, were they upset at all? I mean, or were they like, this is Ron?
No,
like,
so
all the way Ron?
I just kept with that. So in high school, I was from Southern California, so I'd go down there a couple times a year, and then I'd cross the border into Mexico, and at the time I'd buy a whole bunch of fake Oakley sunglasses.
Yeah.
Like those, they're super popular.
Yeah.
This is like, we're sophomore, juniors in high school, right? And so I'd come home with, $300 of fake Oakley sunglasses that I paid for, $2 a piece, and flip them for $50. And that fed me through, high school. And so my parents were like, oh, he has money for gas. We're not giving him gas money, and so then that kind of evolved a little bit to just being strategic with what I was doing. And I remember I got into like working out real big, but I couldn't afford to like buy creatine, at the time. And so I got back then, this is pre-internet, guys, so I went to the Small Business Development Center and got one of the trade journals. I found creatine manufacturers. And so I call these guys up, and they don't know how old I am on the other end of the call, right? And I get them to lend me. They sent me 10 kilos of creatine free. They're like, yeah, here, well, you got terms. Just pay us in 90 days. I'm like,
gosh.
No way, man. And so I'm like cutting this stuff up like a drug dealer and selling it to all of the dudes on my wrestling team. And then, I'm a high school kid, so I'm able to like sneak in all the Bora and Capital and all the other high schools and put flyers up, higher power creatine, whatever. And I just named it, and it'd show up in a Ziploc bag. And I had, but like all the guys kind of knew me in high school. Is like, hey, instead of paying, what was this, $30 for 100 grams, and I sell it for I think $10 100 grams. And
that's interesting because if you're familiar with that space, there's a company called bodybuilding.com.
So Ryan DeLuca and I were we're still friends. And so I met him in 98 right after I graduated high school, and he was doing some online marketing, search engine optimization stuff, and I'm selling all this creatine. And he's like, Ron, we got to figure out how to sell this online. And that was,
Get out.
That was, I can claim it, man. I introduced Ryan DeLuca
That's
to,
interesting. Because I was
Wow.
like, you were the pre-bodybuilding.com.
You were it.
And it was cool working with him at the very beginning, but this was like we didn't have any, there wasn't any fraud controls for credit cards. And so he's a visionary by all means, man. He could see, he's playing chess, man. I'm not that bright of a guy. I just play tic-tac-toe and checkers, but so he's seeing way down the pipeline of like, dude, this could be great. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, Ryan, every 1 out of 10 orders we get is a fraudulent order, and we only have a 10% profit margin. Like, we're not making money at the end of the month. And so we kind of went separate directions, and I started some of my own product lines, and then he kept with bodybuilding.com with the low margin and, high volume thing. And obviously it worked out fantastic. And so it was pretty cool.
That's crazy. Wow. Yeah. We've always wanted to get those guys on just to talk about that introduction.
I'll get them here for you. I'll text
sweet.
them in a minute.
Well, you were the original.
I can't claim that it was because of both of us, right?
Yeah.
He would have not been in the supplement industry if it was for me, and I would not be in the digital marketing space if it wasn't for him. So it was a fantastic synergistic relationship.
That's awesome. Awesome story.
I remember when, like in high school, because we graduated in 2002, creatine was like, everybody was getting it.
Yeah.
Not me.
I
wasn't using it.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Are you sure? I mean, you were like
watching this on YouTube.
You were like 6'5", 120. But yeah, I mean, I remember in high school, like creatine was it, right? Because at the time you had Mark McGuire and all those guys that were just huge.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, creatine.
Yeah. And Bill Phillips is doing all of his
Yeah.
advertising, you know, I think it's like Win a Lamborghini or something like that, your Body for
interesting.
Life, you know, program, which I had the pleasure of having.
that's right, yeah.
I had dinner with him here at Barbacoa, you know, a handful of years back. That was really
you?
cool. I say this very cautiously because I don't throw the term around lightly. I would say he's an enlightened being. I really would. He's on that next level. He just vibrates at a different level, guys. Like he's a very interesting human for sure.
Wow.
So I know he has a new project out right now. I wish I knew the name of the product. I know it's probably fantastic.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it, but he does good stuff, and he's in business for the right reasons.
So then out of college, I mean, you were running out
Yeah.
of the gates
Yeah.
out of high school because you were already doing your own thing for forever.
Yeah, so I started. Then I was at Boise State, and I failed an entrepreneur class, and so that's
You failed it.
Failed it. Got an F, and I'm like, dude, enough. I'm done. And so I dropped out of college, and I gave myself 1 semester, and and at the time I had some crazy unrealistic plan. I'm like, hey, if I could figure out the number is $10,000 a month. If I'm like, and you know, I'm what 20, not even 20. I'm maybe 20 years old. I'm like, dude, if I can figure out how to make 10K a month online, I won't go back to college. And I hustled, man. I hustled. And you know, I hit the goal and I never went back. And for years, you know, for 20 years, I felt stupid, you know, thinking, oh man, you got these MBAs and all these really smart guys out there, you know, and until I started hiring them and realizing, wow, dude, street knowledge is way more powerful.
What did you, I mean, were you selling advertising or products? Or what were you selling?
Anything I could. I mean, now, you know, everyone's like, oh, it's drop shipping or you know, e-commerce. It's just, this was like the beginning of Google AdWords. And so and actually it's called Overture. I think that was the one on Yahoo. And so I was just in the right place at the right time. You know, it's that whole story, like you create your own luck, right? And so I was there when all of a sudden, you know, we're doing a bunch of search engine optimization stuff, you know, shout out to Ryan DeLuca for turning me onto that world. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, like now you can buy search ratings. And the minimum cost was a penny for search traffic.
Yeah.
But at the time it wasn't called sponsored ads. It's called, something like premium listing or something like this. And so now sponsored ads are very difficult to make work because everyone knows it's an advertisement. But back then, everyone thought it was something super special that the search engines are setting aside and putting at the top. And so now we're getting ultra premium traffic and we're paying a penny a click for it. And now if you do any digital advertising, you know, I mean, if you're buying a lead for your business or something, you know, search for, you know, Idaho Business Insurance, you're paying what, $4 a click?
Oh, I mean, that is the golden era of search of of sponsored ads, really.
Yeah.
What you're talking about.
Exactly. So it's just, you know, kind of a lucky space to be in at the time. And you know, I think everything has its purpose and it allowed me to kind of go on my journey and figure out, you know, life and what matters and what's important and you know, what doesn't matter and how to play the game. So I was really lucky with that.
So it sounds like you ran that for 10 years or 12 years.
Yeah, full of years. Yeah. So it was good. And then I got back into the nutrition space. Again, after that, you know, I saw a need for some ultra premium products, like with regards to protein bars and stuff like this. And so I started a company called AMRAP Nutrition. We're pretty popular in the CrossFit space. And
you started that?
yeah.
I've bought some of that.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
AMRAP, because
Yeah, it's good stuff, man.
so you were big into CrossFit.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. That's really interesting. Yeah, that was popular. I went to the one. There was a city here, and for our international listeners, we can give you
global.
Yeah.
It's the one in Meridian is what I went to, and you know at the time I think I went for 6 or 7 years, but like 2008 to like 2012, CrossFit was like very immersive.
Oh yeah.
You know, and all of the terms in CrossFit, there was a lot of spin-offs, right?
Yeah.
Like workout of the day and AMRAP
Yeah,
and all
WOD
those
and
things.
AMRAP, all that stuff. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So yeah, that was good. Did you ever try the protein bars when you had those?
I think that's what I had.
Those were fantastic. I was really proud of those. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Is that still going?
You know, I
Or
still
what's
own
that?
it. And during COVID, so I had that thing, obviously getting sick, I didn't have the mental bandwidth to do it. Like I literally sleep like 3 hours a night and I couldn't drive a car for a while. Like I was like a vegetable, guys. Like I just sat in a chair and like thought I was dying. And so luckily the way I had the business structured was 99% automated. It took, you know, literally an hour a month to operate. And so I kept that automated through while we're in Central America. And then when COVID hit, it messed up our supply chain really bad. And then as a result, it messed up our Amazon listings. And I'll be honest, like, I'm just not that passionate about the supplement space anymore, you know, and I got a couple offers to buy it from me. And I just, it wasn't life-changing money, and I'm like, I'd rather have it and know, because I'd hate for like an investment group to buy it and then just put the, you know, the crap creatine coming from China that all, you know, 80% of the companies use, you know, and just garbage products, and start selling my customer base like you that, you know, have used it in the past, be like, oh, this is premium stuff. And now it's not premium stuff. It's very high margin, and it's just gonna be a flash in the pan, make an investment group a bunch of money. And it just wasn't worth it. So I still own it, but I'm in the process of just shutting it down 100%.
Really?
Like, yeah, we have some inventory that's about to expire, and you know, it's one of those bittersweet things, but I'm really grateful because now I'm on a much different journey. And I think this next chapter of mine is allowing me to touch and inspire a lot more people. And that's where my focus is now at this new season in life. You know, I want to see, you know, how much impact I can have, and I want to take the actions and do the moves necessary to, you know, it sounds crazy saying it, but I want to raise the frequency of the earth. You know, I want to help everyone vibrate a little bit brighter and do those things on their bucket list, and not get stuck in a situation where they think they had more time and didn't take that fishing trip with their kid, or didn't, you know, go do that adventure with their wife that they've always wanted to do. So that's my new mission that I'm on.
I'm excited to talk about this next chapter that you're on, because it's impacted me, and I've had great time following along with you. So for our listeners that haven't checked you out yet, definitely go check them out. But it sounds like, so you're in this state of being sick, not knowing what's ahead for you, this autoimmune thing.
Yeah.
You know, you felt like a vegetable. You put together a bucket list. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah.
And then you say, I'm going to go do it? Or what's the process there?
So prior to that, I always had a bucket list, and people that used to work with me, they confirmed this. Like, I had it actually printed in a frame, and it sat on my desk right in front of me. And I mean, I have, I don't know, 75, 100 things on it, right? I think it's 100, actually. I think I forced myself to put 100 things on my bucket list, and it sat there framed right in front of me. And so I'd see it all the time. And so, you know, when I had an opportunity, I'd do it. But obviously, you know, young kids and, you know, business and, you know, other distractions in other life, like, you know, wasn't making it happen. And I came across that, and now healthy, I'm like, dude, I'm going to do everything on my bucket list. And I'm just going, I just going to vlog it, man. I'm going to videotape this thing while I do it. And you know, I'm going to keep my YouTube episodes super family friendly, so you feel comfortable and safe watching it with your kids. And you know, the kids that don't have a good male role model in their household, like, I want to be that real male role model for you, you know? So, you know, I think we need more of that. You know, we need good, strong men that have, you know, high morals and high values to, you know, help educate and lead the next generation. And so instead of, you know, that's what I'm doing, guys. So I'm, you know, and
wow.
So do you go to your wife and say, hey, I'm going to get a Ford Raptor? Did you have the Raptor before?
Yeah. So I had a 2018 Raptor.
Okay.
And then I sold that. Actually, I sold that when we moved to Costa Rica. And then when I came back, it's during COVID, and I got, you know, I'm on the Ford's email list, and I got this email. It's like, you know, obviously COVID, everything, you know, the economy screeched to a halt. And it's like they had all these 2020 Raptors, and they're selling them for, I don't know, 10, 15 under MSRP.
Get out,
which
really?
now you try to get one, they're like 50 over
Right,
MSRP. Yeah. And so I'm like, dude, I'm going to go get a Raptor.
Yeah.
And so I picked up a 2020, and you know, it's perfect. You know, I've had sports cars in the past, and I mean, that thing handles like a sports car. You can put it in 4 low and climb over literally any mountain range in America. And I say that with authority because I've done it.
I've seen it.
You've seen it. And then at the same time, you can, you know, throw your wife's, you know, 35 pounds of shoes and luggage and kids' skateboards and scooters and all that stuff in the back, and hit the highway at 80 miles an hour and go on a road trip. So
So how did you pitch this to your wife?
You know, I'm going to say the story, and you're going to think, like, no, that's not true, Ron. It can't be. Like, it was early September, not even early September, probably like September 9th, something like this. And it's a Saturday, and I'm taking a nap, and I wake up, and I look out the window, and it's like all sunny, and I'm like, I'm going to drive across the USA without using paved roads. And literally, I left the house 2 weeks later. And I don't even own any camping stuff, guys. Like, I went to Cabela's. Like, I spent the next 2 weeks. Well, week one, I was figuring out, like, because I've heard about this trail in the past.
So this is an established route.
There's an established route. A lot of guys do them on motorcycles, like enduro sports. And but I worked with a guy. He was a Facebook ad buyer of mine, and he showed me a picture one time, like on Skype. He's like, dude, check out, my brother just got a Raptor, and he outfitted and had this big stainless steel, like, pull out drawer and kitchen and all this stuff. He's like, yeah, he's going to spend the next 3 months with his girlfriend driving this Transamerica Trail, like all off road across the U.S. And I'm like, dude, that's crazy. So that planted the seed years ago for this. And
so this is an idea that had been somewhat
just in the back of the
you.
brain. Yeah, it's somewhat introduced to me, and it just festered in the back of the brain forever. And so I just decided, I'm like, the timing's never going to be right. Like, I got lots of stuff going on. Like, this is going to take a month, and so I literally went to Cabela's, bought a sleeping bag and a Garmin Mini InReach and a little stove and a couple other little things. And if you watch the video, you'll see I'm simple. I mean, this is not a big overland setup with a rooftop tent. I mean, I'm sleeping in the cab of the truck with my dog, and it's comical.
Yeah.
But so then, yeah.
So where is the route? Like, describe the route.
So the route, most of the people, the route is actually mapped out east to west travel. And so I was able to find a route, and then I manipulated it quite a bit, to suit my needs. Obviously driving a full-size truck and stuff. So I started in Port Orford, Oregon. Okay. Then it crosses through Oregon and then cuts and then you have kind of the choice whether you go north through Idaho or through Nevada. And then
you chose Nevada.
Yeah. Then the trail meets up again like south of Salt Lake City, and then just basically cuts through. You go over the Rocky Mountains, you go over the 13,000 foot passes, and
all on dirt roads.
All on dirt roads. You can get from the Pacific Ocean to the Mississippi River. I can say it very confidently. 99% off-road the entire way. I mean, in terms of miles and 99% of time and 98% of miles. Because, there's a little section, going through one of the valleys of Colorado that it's paved. There's no way around it. But I'm talking 20 miles. Right. There's a couple little spots like that. And then I would come across a town every few days, and I'd fill up on gas and supplies and food for the dog and ice and whatever else I needed.
Your dog, what was the name?
Coda.
So did Coda have an option to not go on that? Coda's like, okay, he just jumps in the car one day and he's like, I guess not returning until.
Yeah, I'm not going to give it away, but there's a point, if you watch my series, it's a 28-day YouTube series, and there's a point where the dog no longer likes road trips. and she was sad and depressed for a while. You'll have to take a guess at how many days that is. But it will happen, even in the best of dogs.
I could just imagine the dog's like, all right, we're going on a little day trip. No big deal. And then like a month later walks in, he's like, do not let me get in that car again.
Never again. But and the dog was fantastic, man. Like she's a trained Czech Shepherd. It's like what the police and military use. And I have a buddy that's a canine officer, and so he kind of helped guide me. And when I'd get stuck with different training issues with the dog when she's a puppy, and the dog was fantastic. Like, I have a story one night. I like to stealth camp, where you're all by yourself in the middle of nowhere. Obviously, Oregon has some drug issues, and there's a lot of drug activity in the middle of nowhere in Oregon, unfortunately. And so I'm very, I like to camp where someone's not going to find me, at night, so I can sleep comfortably knowing I'm not going to have to wake up and have to deal with anything. And so as I'm driving on this dirt road, it's kind of sagebrushy. It's like rolling mountains, and there's not like a lot of forested area, and it's pretty open, but it's super, super remote. Like I drove for a long time and didn't see anybody. And so I noticed with my windows down, I could see, about 40 feet away from the road, just with my headlights, and so I backed up probably 400 yards off the road, just in the sagebrush, and I'm sound asleep, and all of a sudden, the dog starts growling in the middle of the night. And it's like 3:30, 4 in the morning maybe. And she starts growling. And so I pop up, and I sleep with my sunroof open. I got a huge floodlight in the car. And so I pop out thinking there's going to be like a herd of elk or something. And so I spot all the way around me. Didn't see any elk. And I lay back down, and I'm thinking, there must have been a coyote, in the sagebrush or something. And she keeps growling. And then I kid you not, like 2 or 3 minutes later, which is a long time, all of a sudden, headlights come up over the hill. This is like a half mile away, like a long ways away, and maybe even closer to a mile away. I mean, it's a distance. All of a sudden I see headlights in the distance coming. I'm like, oh, good dog. Like, I can't believe you could hear that from, oh my gosh. Like, and she's, I really believe the dogs have a sixth sense. And I think we have it too. And a lot of times either with, substances being caffeine or what have you, I think we dull out that sixth sense. But dogs have it really strong. And I think if you lean into yours, you know when you're in a good situation or not. But so she's growling, and I see this car coming. I'm watching it, and then it gets right in front of me. So now it's like directly on the road where I'm at and stops. And I'm like, that's weird. Like, this is a weird spot to stop. I mean, you know, you're driving, and it's weird that you're out here driving at 3:30 in the morning. Yeah. And so I'm holding the dog's mouth shut, and she's just, all of her muscles are tensed up, and she's pissed. But the sunroof's open. I'm thinking, if these guys have their window down, she starts barking, they're going to hear her. Like, right now, they can't see me. And they sat there for, I mean, it felt like, it's 10 minutes, but it felt like an hour. And I'm wondering, and I can see them because they have their headlights on, their tail lights on. And so I could see if anyone comes around the passenger side and walked around the vehicle, and I could see if the driver's door would open. And they just sat there for the longest time. I'm like, dude, am I going to see these guys, you know, do something and just by the universe wanted me to see it? Like, are they going to get out here and execute some dude and like bury him, or like what the hell's going on? And then they drove off, and I'm like,
we'll never know.
We'll never know. I mean, wow. I have a theory. I think it was elk hunting season, and then 2020 hindsight, I think they're probably poaching, and I think they probably had night vision, and so they're probably driving, and then also, you know, spotting like the hillside with using night vision, and then they saw a truck up there, and they're probably thinking, what the hell's that guy doing? And they're looking at me, looking back at him through the windshield, you know. So.
And that was Central Oregon.
That was the Central Eastern Oregon.
Because Central Eastern Oregon is bare, deserted, like not
very remote. Very
remote. Yeah, like incredibly remote.
Yeah. And I had a couple other, you know, things happen that were, you know, that you know, and I kept my YouTube channel very family friendly, so I did talk about, you know, a couple other instances that I had that were a little bit on the sketchy side.
Do you feel safe during that time? I mean, you have a dog with you, but
I have a dog, you know, and obviously I've taken other, you know, precautions, you know, where I would have been fine, you know, but but I mean, it was alarming. I mean, you're out there in the middle of nowhere with, you know, tricky people. I mean, and you know, it could be a little bit sketchy. So
as far as like cell service and emergency response, there's just not.
You're by yourself. Yeah. I mean, I had a Garmin InReach, which is great. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that trip solo without that. And so my wife, you know, kept a pretty close eye on, made sure was moving constantly. And if I was in the one spot for too long, like I'd get a message, be like, hey, everything good? You know, and I know if I didn't respond timely, like I would, you know, a helicopter would be showing up. She's a determined woman, and I'm sure she'd be making the right phone calls to get people there in a timely manner. But, and yeah, bless her soul, man. I scared the crap out of her one night. So this was day 11, and I was outside of Moab, and I called her. I actually had cell phone service, and so I called her. I'm like, hey, you got me on GPS, right? She said, yeah. And she's watching Minions with the kids, right? It's like, you know, 11 o'clock, 10:30 at night, something like this. And I'm like, okay, watch me. I'm like, if I don't call you back in 15 minutes, send help. And I'm like, I got to go. And I hung up. So I got myself in this predicament climbing up this hill, and I had a cliff about 2,000 feet down on one side, and I had to do a U-turn, or not a U-turn, but like a 15-point turn to turn around on top of this platform. Wow. That was about as big as this office, guys. It was 20 feet by 10 feet maybe. If you watch day 11, you'll see where I'm parked at. And I went up on the top of that little plateau and turned around so I could drive out of there the next day. And so she's watching me on GPS, and, you know, sometimes GPS will bounce, you know, like the location will bounce a little bit. And so she's watching it. She sees I'm on a cliff. She's like, oh, hell no. And then all of a sudden the GPS location bounced. And all of a sudden it showed that I was, you know, a half mile away on the other side of that cliff. And she's like, holy shit, did I just see my husband fall off a cliff? And so she called me, and I'm like, I can't talk, busy, call you back in a minute. I mean, I was stressed, but it was, you know, it turned out to be amazing. I mean, I woke up on the most beautiful, you know, hilltop and I spent, I think, until noon there the next day. I just didn't want to leave. It was just absolutely amazing. And I had, you know, countless stories like that.
Do you mind talking more? So I'm really interested in your prep.
Yeah.
Because you said it was like a 2-week turnaround time. And you seem like a guy that's like on the fly, let's go, I'm ready, right? I mean, a lot of people would take years to plan that type of thing, and really, like, you know, every day and what you need, and you're just like grabbed a few Go-Gurts on the way and just took off.
Yeah, you know, I canned fish.
Sardines,
canned oysters, man, canned pears, and I'm out. About a week's worth of salmon, and I had I ate so much. But so yeah, I literally got a couple Tupperwares, filled them up with canned food. I used my father-in-law's cooler and filled that up because my dog's on like a raw diet, so she just eats like raw chicken and stuff, so that has to stay cold. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even needed a cooler, to be honest.
Yeah.
And grabbed that, a little stove so I can make coffee in the morning. I went to Walmart and I grabbed 2, I believe they're either 5 or 6 gallon big water jugs, and so I had, because you're in the desert alone. Like that's the one thing that you go, you don't want to be stuck in an environment where you don't have water out there. I mean, obviously here in Idaho, if you spend any time in the wilderness, you have, basic survival, knowledge. But and it was 2 weeks, and I shipped off and went out there, and I never even camped by myself before this trip. And so,
do you feel like you have survival skills? I mean, do you feel unprepared
I've read a book,
Okay. You've watched some Bear Grylls episodes.
Yeah. I watched Bear Grylls back in the day.
Yeah.
And, I think a lot of it's common sense. I mean, if you have to be careful when you're doing risky things, and there's several spots that were, and I have a fairly high risk tolerance, and I'm pretty good under pressure and in environments like that. And so, and then back to the questions, like if it takes a year of planning, if you're going to give yourself a year to prepare for this trip, it'll take a year to get ready, right? If you give yourself a week, it'll take a week to get ready. Yeah. It's like that principle has a name, So that's how I like to do things, just with life. Give yourself a very short window of time and just execute, just make it happen, and just get going. Like the timing will never be right, and if you give yourself too long of a time horizon, it's just too many variables that you can't control come up. Next thing you know, your kid breaks an elbow or something skateboarding, and and there goes your trip, right? Yeah. Versus if you're on your trip, you can just come back and take care of the kid. Yeah. So
that's interesting.
What about off-roading experience? You had to have some, right?
Yeah. I'm good at off-roading. My 2018 Raptor, I didn't feel comfortable selling it private party, and so I gave it to a dealer. And I'll say I tried to destroy that 2018 Raptor. They are non-destroyable, guys. Yeah. Like and I have a buddy that's a big off-road enthusiast, and so old friend from CrossFit. And so when he saw that on Facebook that I got a Raptor, he's like, "You got to come out with me." Yeah. And he taught me everything I know. And then I went to a Ford Raptor off-road race driving performance school, and so that taught some other stuff as well. And I keep telling my buddy, you guys should have him on here. He has a fantastic story. Aaron Miner, he's former law enforcement.
I know Aaron Miner.
Oh, okay, yeah. SWAT officer. His Jeep. Do you know his Instagram? Dragon Gladiator.
I don't.
Dragon Gladiator on Instagram is a big Jeep. What's it called?
Enthusiast or
no. It's the. Man, my brain just skipped me. Anyways, he has a huge built-out Jeep, the 40-inch wheels on it and awesome. And so we go out quite a bit, and he showed me a lot on recovery and, how to get out of situations.
So to get through what you did, how knowledgeable do you need to be in off-roading? Is it like, okay, this is expert level advanced, or it's like, okay.
It's choose your own adventure, right? So at the beginning when I left Port Orford, it was, gravel roads. And you can take a Subaru down gravel roads forever and not have an issue. I had a situation where some guys were following me after I drove through a drug camp in the middle of the night, and I had to put in 4 low and climb up to the top of a mountain to get away from them.
Wow.
And so that takes a different set of skills.
And in Colorado on the snow.
The snow.
Was that in Colorado?
Yeah, that was Colorado on day 13. That was epic.
That was watching that. I don't want to give too much away, but if you watch day 13, it's awesome.
Yeah. I wish that we had video of me getting out of that situation, because I was basically, for the listeners, I was sliding sideways down a hill. So every foot that I drove forward, I'd slide 2 feet sideways, and then the hill continued to get steeper the farther down I went. And so I got in this really sticky situation. There's some other Jeeps in the area, and I had to go off trail to get around one after using myself as an anchor point to winch him up to me. And so unfortunately, the other Jeep guy, everyone thought I was going to die. And so they turned off their cameras, trying to figure out how to get recovery ropes to try to secure me.
I thought you were going to die.
I thought I was going to die. And so I took off, and I stopped there right when they saw me stop, and they're like, okay, we better hook this guy up. And they all took off, and the guy filming stopped his camera. And but what I was doing, I was taking off traction control, and I was putting it 4 high. And this is something I learned, off-roading with miners, that, the Raptor has so much horsepower. If it's not working in 4 low, man, you take off traction control, throw that thing in 4 high, and you could just burn out of anything. And so what ended up happening, I gave that thing full power, and I was able to get my nose pointed upwards. And so the gravity's obviously sliding me down the hill, but I have enough power that's dragging me up the hill. And so now I'm crab walking at a 45-degree angle across the side of this mountain. And a whole bunch of other guys saw it. Some other guys came by on dirt bikes that had like metal studs in them. They go dirt biking in this, frozen tundra of Colorado. I mean, just pretty cool guys. And they saw it. They're like, my gosh, that was amazing. You're the only one out here that knows how to drive. But unfortunately, like the video clip ends, and so you never see me get out of it. So like that video went viral on Instagram, and it's like I got hundreds, if not thousands, of comments being like, "Learn how to drive, princess." Like, come on, guys. I got out of it. Like anyone else, they would have rolled their truck all the way down the hill. Wow. So that was pretty cool.
I wouldn't even have gotten in the truck. I mean, just watching it, it looks like the wheels are going to buckle, right? Like you're sliding down.
The car almost rolls over.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it. Like, the wheels are buckling. I mean, it was steep. It was very steep.
I would have had very wet pants.
Yeah.
That's fine. So how many video cameras did you have going?
So I had 2 GoPros and my iPhone, actually. Yeah. So that's how I used it. And this was my first YouTube journey, and I just wanted to see, like, I'm pretty frugal. I'm pretty minimalist, and I don't like stuff. And
that's why you bought a Ford Raptor.
Exactly. I always tell people, I'm like, you can sleep in your car, but you can't drive your house, guys. Yeah. But so that's my setup, and I just wanted to see how it would turn out, and I hired a fantastic editor. Yeah. I went through the process, through that process of hiring and unfortunately firing about 15 or 20 editors until I found my guy, Tom, which is epic, and so I was really fortunate with him, and I think we have a long journey in the YouTube space ahead of us.
And this is all after you get back, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Once you get the footage, hey, we got to find an editor to do this.
Yeah.
Walk us through a little bit, kind of what that's like. Yeah. You go on this trip, you bring back footage. Now, what's the plan going forward?
So, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, man, I wish I could plan ahead more than a day and a half, But so along my trip, I brought a hard drive and my laptop with me, and so I made sure I had multiple backups of the footage, both that I'd keep in the car and then one I'd keep on my body. Like, I got a hotel a couple nights. After a while, you need a shower. Yeah. For me, my number is about 7 days. And so I'd make sure to bring a copy of all my footage in the hotel with me in case heaven forbid the truck got stolen or something. Yeah. And so because that was obviously really valuable to me, I set up one camera on the top of the truck and I time lapsed the entire thing. From day 7 onward. Prior to that, I had just little clips of time lapse, and that was an idea. I had cell phone coverage, and I was talking to people on Instagram. They're like, "Dude, you should time lapse the entire thing." And so whoever gave me that suggestion, I forgot who it was, but thank you.
It worked. It looked good.
Yeah, and what we're doing right now, actually, Tom's working on it today. Is we're so along my journey, every day when I found the most beautiful spot I could imagine, I'd hide a golden banana because I wanted to create the world's largest treasure hunt.
Was this planned ahead of time?
So that was like, I think 6 days before I left, because I remember I bought them on Amazon and I was debating if I pay the expedited shipping to get them.
Yeah. Were they gold when you bought them, or you spray paint them?
Yeah, you'll have to go get one and find out.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
We can't reveal everything.
Yeah, guys. I wish, man. One day, I'm going to put it on record right here. One day, when my YouTube channel blows up and I have, ton of discretionary money, I'll make a solid golden banana and I'll hide it out.
There you go. Yeah.
I figure it'll probably cost about $400,000. So, but how rad would that be? Like, whether I'm alive or dead, but like everyone's searching for this golden banana that some nut job hid.
I don't think Mr. Beast has done anything like that.
Well, there was the one oh gosh, I'm gonna butcher this. That there was an older gentleman who wanted to get people out, so
Forrest
he hit
Finn.
He hit a treasure.
I searched for that dude's treasure for hours, months, years. I spent years searching for that guy's treasure.
People died looking for
it. Like some people, those guys are going to end up drinking paint or doing something stupid anyways, right? I mean, dude, you're 80 pounds overweight, and you decide to get a inner tube and go down the Colorado River with your dog, like, bro, maybe we should edit that out. I don't know. I feel because that happened. And
the guy that found it said he found it based on the poem, but people are sort of suspicious that he found it because Finn was about to die and he wanted it found before he died.
No, I think
that's
Finn
what the controversy was.
So I studied. When that came out, I stumbled across that, and I watched and searched, and I listened to every podcast from Forrest Finn and watched every 100%. There's not one clip from Forrest Finn out there that I did not watch, and my understanding of him after seeing, hundreds of hours of that man, his morals and ethics were really high. And if you study his business that he did down in Santa Fe, New Mexico, he was an honest person, and I don't think
the gentleman that found it.
He found it fair and square. Yeah, I really thought I found the location. Actually, I'm not going to reveal where it was, but there was a mark on a tree, or, blaze, that's like once you find the blaze, look quickly down, and there's a blaze, and it was really interesting because it was in the Ute Indian territory, and Forrest Finn was mesmerized by the Ute Indians, and on the tree, on the same tree below it, there was an old blaze that was, you could tell, like hundreds of years old, and then there was a new one. And I'm thinking that one is within the last 10 years, and this one is 100 years old, and they're on all these trees. And so I got a special metal detector that'd go penetrate the ground pretty deeply because I thought it was buried, because he had other instances where he buried treasure. He had like these bronze vases, and he has like his life story or biography like rolled up on like papyrus or whatever inside these things buried. And he said, and in one of his interviews, he said, oh no, I buried those deep so a metal detector won't pick them up. But there's a certain metal detector you can get that penetrates like 10 feet down.
Okay.
And so I bought one of these, and I checked this area out with like a regular metal detector, and I'm like, and then I saw that interview, I'm like, it's out there. So I got this different metal detector and drove all the way out there, and it's like a 15-hour drive, guys, from Boise. And so I drive out there, and I check it, and nothing went off. And so I started digging a hole, like a trench, like kind of up when you first see the blaze going down to that tree. And then also when I get close to it, the ground got really soft. And I dug it out, and someone chiseled, I don't know if it's Native American, but like you had the topsoil and the dirt, and then afterwards when you got below that, it was like hard sandstone. And I have a picture. I don't know how to share it, but and the sandstone was chiseled out into a square hole, and someone used a pick to chisel that out. So someone was there prior, and that wasn't, so and so I saw this empty spot, and I thought to myself, I'm like, if I found that, I wouldn't disclose that I found it, because I won't want to kill the hunt for anybody else. And so, and that was my intent. And so after I found that location, I retired as a Forrest Finn treasure hunter, and I'm sure he played a role in this, and he'll play a role when I hide my solid gold banana at a future date.
Pass down the legacy.
Yeah, how cool is that, right? Like you get all these people out there, and I mean, we had fantastic stories with my kids and wife, and camping out there and doing stuff, and I mean, we had a great time.
So what was your goal with the bananas?
So it just came up out of nowhere. Like we're eating breakfast as a family one day, and I'm talking to my kids, and they're like, I'm like, maybe we should like hide something, like create a geocache or something like this, because we love doing that type of stuff. And then one of my kids like, you're like a big dumb monkey, Dad. Like you should get a bunch of bananas and hide bananas. And I'm like, oh dude, that's awesome, let's do it. And so that was it. We got some ammo cans and some golden bananas, and they're out there, and if we're releasing all the GPS locations here later this week.
Oh yeah.
For all 28 locations, and with the exception of one, I have one location on day 12. I found the most beautiful spot, hidden gold banana, and then I realized I made a mistake. A handful of hours later, I came over a mountain range, and I found honestly the most beautiful spot in the entire United States. And so that's a separate location. I'm going to share that GPS location with you guys here, and it'll only be shared on podcast interviews that I do.
Awesome.
So
exclusive content here.
Yeah. So you just answered a question. So I watch your series at night before. So I have a 12-year-old son, Jackson. Shout out to Jackson.
What's up, Jackson?
Yeah. And so I said, hey, I'm interviewing Banana Ron today. Do you have any questions for him? And he said, did you ever hide a banana at the most beautiful spot, only to find a more beautiful spot later that day?
So it sounds like
day 12.
Day 12. And so, but yeah, here, while we're talking about, let me get that location for you guys, and I'll read it off.
Do you mind if we post it in the link?
Do whatever you want to do with it. It's your guys'.
He also wanted to know what your favorite color is.
Oh, I got to go with green, guys.
Green?
Yeah.
That was Jackson. That's Jackson.
He had two questions.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, so the GPS coordinates, north 37.812309, and then west 108.173095.
This is the new location.
This is the location for the super special fragilistic. I had a crazy name for it, but you guys can name it whatever you want. Go ahead and call it the Founder's Banana.
There you go.
I like that idea.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so that was pretty cool. And so when Yeah, so I'm excited about it. So all the GPS locations will be coming out here pretty quick.
All right. Check the links on YouTube and on, I guess, Spotify for the GPS location of the Founder's Banana.
Yeah.
TM. Love that. That's awesome, man. Thanks, Ron. I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. But kind of the idea was just give people an adventure.
Yeah, and if when you do go banana hunting and become a banana people is what my group of have named themselves the banana people, and so it's pretty cool. Like I released 2 locations so far up until this one, and the first location the guys lived. It did exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to create spontaneous action, and I wanted to do something that create lifelong memories, right? Yeah. And so one of my viewers was in Utah. I forgot what city is in Utah, but he's 4 hours away from Moab. So I published my video at 2 p.m. His local time. He watched it about like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, grabbed his daughter, drove to Moab that night. They got in late. They got a hotel room, and they got up early the next morning, and they were at the banana location at 8 a.m. the next day.
And
awesome.
So, and that was, that is exactly what I want to do. I mean, that guy and his daughter, they created, lifelong memories, doing just that. And then, hours later, I get another message from another guy. He's out there. And so if you're going banana hunting, I just ask that you leave it for the next guy, sign your name. If you have a little trinket or something you want to leave in the ammo can, like your mom's wedding ring or some stickers or whatever, go ahead and do so. I encourage, like take the time, go to a store, buy a cool rock, if a little kid's with you, the next group and they find like a $10 rock, like that's going to be amazing, and then just pay it forward, sign your name and, take pictures, but then take video and pictures of you doing it. And then at the end of the year, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create like kind of a video, showing all the banana adventure that we created, of all the families and people out there doing cool stuff. And I'll take your clips and you can just email that to yo@bananaron.com.
Yo@bananaron.com. You've already posted some pictures, right, of people that have found some?
Yeah. The 2 locations that I released, we're toying with a couple different ideas, on how to go about releasing them. And so I was going to release them one at a time. Like once one got found, I was going to release another one. But that's going to take it way too long, through summer. And it's just way too much work in terms of editing and stuff. So what we're doing, we're taking my time-lapse footage. We figure it's going to be like 3 or 4 hours, the entire trip. And we're putting it all in one long video. So you're going to see, you can watch a time-lapse of off-road across the entire United States and like the geography changing. And then we're just going to put the GPS locations easy to find in that time-lapse video. And we'll have it, put chapters on it by day or whatever. So you can be like, oh, are you
going to do it hidden like you did in that one video?
No, it was too hard, and
I found it.
It was hard.
It was hard.
I never found them, man. My editor told me where they're at.
I had to stop, go back, but I found it.
Yeah, and that was pretty cool, but that's just too much work. And there's a lot of guys that they don't have time to rewatch over and over. It's like they just want the coordinates. They're big Jeep off-roading, overlanding guys. They just, hey, I want a kid to get this GPS coordinate, write it down, and go to his dad, be like, Dad, we got to go here and get a banana. And then the dad's like, what are you talking about, Jimmy? And then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go get your banana. And next thing you know, I get a picture of this dude, and his son holding the banana, and that would just make me, knowing like, dude, that memory's going to last forever. Like that dad is going to pass away one day. I'm going to pass away one day. That kid's going to tell his grandkids one day, be like, oh yeah, I went out searched for this crazy dude's banana. I don't remember his name now, banana something, and I'm like, that's great, man. Just create memories.
So leave the banana, don't take it. Even if you weren't the first one to find it, go still look, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're not first, go find it. And then send picture to yo@bananaron.com.
Yeah, send pictures or just upload all your pictures or videos to like a, Dropbox or Google Drive or something. Send me the link to yo@bananaron.com and we'll download them and anything anything you get, we'll upload and make a video out of it at the end of the year.
That's cool. That's a cool program for sure. So a question on like, as you were getting to the end of the trip, were you exhausted? Were you introspective?
Oh,
I mean, where
so
were
exhausted,
you?
Man, I was so tired. When you're forced to have fun like 12 hours a day, 18 hours a day, all day, it gets exhausting, right? No, no, it was tiring.
I'm sure it was a grind.
Oh yeah, man. I'm living on adrenaline, and you have, different things happen throughout the day, when you're in a regular life pattern, right? Like, as you know, like being in the startup or the business world, like the more systemized, you can make your day so you know, like, hey, this is where I get my cup of coffee. Like, I wore the same outfit. I still do, basically. Like, I'll buy like 5 of the same shirt and 5 of the same shorts. I have my uniform, man. It's like, it's like, so I don't have to think about what to wear. And you hear guys like, Mark Zuckerberg and stuff like this doing that exact same thing, and Steve Jobs, doing that exact same thing. So then your brain has the resources free to make decisions that matter. Like, hey, how do I deal with this client, or how do I address this problem with this employee, versus like, oh, where am I going to get a coffee today, or oh, this shirt is too tight. I don't like how this shirt fits. You're looking in a mirror like trying to figure out what shirt fits right. It's like, that's a waste of mental resources. But if you're out there every day, for 28 days straight, and you don't know where your food's going to come from, you don't know what's going to happen in the middle of the night, you don't know where you're going to sleep, you don't know how you're going to find a secure place to sleep, and the list goes on and on. There's a couple different times, you're up and low on both adrenaline and fatigue and exhaustion, and you get homesick. And by the end of the trip, man, I was tired. And I wanted to make it back for Halloween for my kids. And so I had to kind of rush the last few days.
Where was the final point, like the East Coast?
Emerald Island, North Carolina.
Okay.
So I went out there with the dog, and we played in the Pacific Ocean 28 days prior. The dog got all wet. I stayed out of the Pacific, and I got my feet wet. And then as soon as I got to Emerald Island, North Carolina, I think it's Jackson, North Carolina is the bigger town that's just south of there. And there's like a big military base. It's a beautiful spot, guys. But I got out there, I'm wandering around in the ocean 28 days later with the dog. And then I turned around. I stayed at a hotel that night, and I made it home in 36 hours.
You just drove straight on the freeway.
Straight drove every waking hour. And I sleep better in my truck at that point than hotel rooms. I'd pull into a hotel parking lot, sleep in the parking lot, grab eat a can of fish and pears for breakfast, and jump in the car and get going. And I made it back in 36 hours.
Wow.
I think I heard you say you didn't listen to music.
No,
is that right?
No, I'm an amazing singer, actually.
Yeah, it shows on the channel.
Right? Yeah. So no, I'm a horrible singer.
Is there like a soundtrack available?
I wish, man. Even my editor hates my singing so much, he cut it all out except for one clip. But no, I just sing to the poor dog all day. But I just I like having all the windows down, all 4 windows down, and just enjoying the nature. I feel like the music messes up. You put me on a highway, by myself, I'm rocking out. But yeah.
I imagine, just me driving, I haven't done this trip obviously, but driving from here to Salt Lake or whatever, or 6 to 10 hour drive, wherever you go, you get tired, right? You get bored. Is that what you face? Were they boring long days?
I was not bored for 1 second. It was because you're on off road the entire time, and it's so exhilarating. Like, there's one day I went over a mountain range in Nevada, and at the end of the day, I drove like 12 hours that day. I averaged 9 miles an hour for the entire, or maybe it's 96 miles by the time the day was done. I think it's day 9 or 6, something. It's the early part of Nevada. And because, I'm in 4 low going up and over this mountain range, I'm at like 4 to 5 miles an hour climbing over boulders the whole day. And then coming down, it was so steep going down it. This is a goat trail, right? And it's so steep, and there's cliffs on both sides. I had that thing on using downhill assist, which like mechanically slows down your vehicle, so you're not having to be on the brakes. And you can set it; it's like cruise control, but really low speeds. I had my cruise control set between 1.5 and 2 miles or 3 miles an hour.
Gosh, wow.
And there was parts of that day where I'm going, 80, 90 miles an hour on dirt road, but still at the end of the day, like, it was a 90-mile day after an entire day of driving. That was big day.
So you're with your dog. But do you get lonely on the trip?
I got homesick about halfway through, but not really. I'm so active in my own brain and talk to myself all day long.
You're a positive guy.
Yeah,
you're making dumb jokes. You're just,
exactly.
Whatever.
I'm just having fun, man. You stick me in the middle of anywhere with a flashlight or a pocket knife, I'll be entertained for days. I'm a simple guy, So yeah, I had a great time.
It just made me think, of you talking and going on this journey. One of the lines that you said, I'd never heard it. We all have dads that say dumb dad jokes. We're dads, we say dumb dad jokes. But you would always say, man, you can tell that it's beautiful by the way it looks.
There you go.
He's like, look at that mountain range.
That's golden.
Look at that. You can tell it by the way it looks.
Yeah.
Like, well, how else would you tell it?
Exactly.
It was great.
That was funny. Yeah.
Did you ever have any mechanical breakdown issues or any issues with?
No, the Ford Raptor is such a engineering marvel. Like it truly is. Like how I touched on earlier. I mean, you put a family of 5 in there, plus the full size cab. You know, I have a 75-pound dog that's laying at the kids' feet in the back of the truck. You know, a bed full of toys and luggage, and you can go down the freeway at any speed you want. And so the only issue, I was in Nevada. I want to say it was day 8. And I'm driving, and all of a sudden I heard some really bad sounding noises, and it sounded like it was mechanical related. It turned out to be a rock that was stuck in my wheel between my caliper, and so when I drive, it would like start clinking. Yeah. And I didn't see it at first. So I mean, obviously YouTube's heavily edited, but I'm going back and forth trying to figure out what this is. I'm there with a flashlight looking for stuff, and then finally I see this rock about the size of a baseball stuck, between my brake caliper and my wheel. And I'm thinking, dude, how am I going to get this thing out of here? And luckily I was able to, go back and forth enough times, and it wore itself smaller, and I just jabbed it with a knife and it popped out.
The thing that always worries me is when we're on a dirt road and you're going at a certain speed. Sometimes there's like a dip or a bump or just a abnormality in that road that you can't see very well. That you just hit really hard, and then you're like, okay, now we got a problem, right? Yeah, that would always worry me about that.
So that happens. The Raptor eats that stuff up pretty good. Yeah. And especially, I'd have like 28 PSI in the tires, on typically, or even less, depending on the type of road. Like the road I have kind of visually is probably 25 PSI. And I did hit something, and I mean, you look at my skid plate, the truck's out front, go look at it. I've hit things, at high speed, and it rattles you, I mean, it'll rattle your jaw and your brain a little bit. So I didn't ever have any mechanical issue. The one time I really got scared, it was day 10. And it was what was it, northwest of Moab, Utah, kind of by Green River. Beautiful area, by the way. And I'm driving down this super, it is a sketchy, not super sketchy, but it was a 4-low trail. And I was kind of in a rush, and I didn't think it was going to be such a slow trail. And there are these drainages, like from flash floods, and the road was washed out, but just the way you wouldn't see it, like, because I'm like climbing up like at a mild, 3% grade or 2% grade, and then all of a sudden there'd be like a hole that's like the fourth of the size of my truck that I'd fallen. And so it happened several times, and then just by fluke, I was like videotaping myself talking about how these washouts are going to kill me, and then right while I'm videotaping, I fall into one. And I mean, I hit the side of my truck on the wall. Like, I mean, I fell deep.
You said if you would have had your arm out the window,
I would have lost it. I would have lost it. And that's the thing. Like, you have to be careful when you're doing risky things, And so, like, hey, kids, don't drive with your hand out the window. It looks stupid. It's like, same with you put your feet on the dash, man. You know what would happen? Like the firefighters aren't going to be able to figure out how to put you back together. But that was scary. And that day, so after this never made the final cut, but after that moment when I fell in there, I pulled forward. I had water leaking in the back. Well, I forgot to close my tailgate. And so I drove through that entire area, super sketchy, not sketchy, but it was very, very slow going, 4-low. I drove for, I don't know, an hour and a half, and I stop, and I all of a sudden get out, just like take some filming, or fill up my water bottles or something. And all of a sudden I realized my tailgate's open, and I lost my trash can. It's like a 5-gallon container, and I'm like, it's stupid, but the trash can, one, I'm not going to leave garbage out there, but two, like, the way I had everything cinched in there, that it was necessary so my water containers wouldn't fall over, and I needed a trash can. And so I'm like, man, I had to turn around and go find that trash can, and that was brutal. And so I'm like, I was so grumpy by the time I got off that trail, but it was awesome. It was a really amazing experience. I was really fortunate to be able to do something like this.
So these stories are incredible, Ron. They're really awesome. I'm curious what you want to do with them moving forward. Like, what do you want? I mean, you've talked about inspiring people, go out, and is this kicking off a new journey to continue checking boxes off of your bucket list and inspiring more people that way? Or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to spend the next year, I decided, focus 100% on YouTube and creating YouTube content. And so, and just see where it goes from there. I mean, I think, I got really lucky. Like, if on the business side of YouTube, it can be really interesting, and you can create some really cool impact, and you can do a lot of good with it. And I think, like, I touched on earlier, I'm like, I think that's the biggest microphone that I have that could, help me reach and inspire and touch as many people as I want to touch. And then at the end of the day too, it's like, man, if I could figure out how to get compensated to do the stuff on my bucket list, that's awesome. And so we have a couple more trips planned. I'm just trying to figure out the dynamics and scheduling and stuff like this. But I going through this, the seed was planted. I'm like, wonder if I drive around the entire world. And I'm like, so I was going to go drive across Europe this summer with my family. Tickets are crazy, so we'll probably do that in the fall. And that's easy. Europe's, safe. But I'm like, dude, I got to make it interesting. Like anyone can drive across Europe. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to drive across Europe with my wife and 3 kids, and I'm not going to use maps. so no maps, man. Okay. It's going to be awesome.
Are you planning on staying married?
He's going to do like circles.
I'm going to do circles. I'm going to do circles.
Coda's like, I'm not coming.
Yeah, Coda's done. The wife is nervous. The kids are a hard no, but they get to come whether they like it or not. I don't know, man. Maybe we'll set up like a GoFundMe or something like that for my wife's wine fund. And it's like.
So when your wife says, "I think you should get out and ask directions," are you going to do that?
Oh no, man, not at all, not at all. I think it's going to be fairly easy. And we're starting in Lisbon, Portugal, and then you can figure out which way is north and south easily, right? And as long as I can make it to which I'll be able to drive east until I hit the Mediterranean, and then I'm going to just kind of hug the coast until I get to Venice, Italy. I mean, I'm sure I'll get lost a couple times, but I think that'd be cool. Then I figured, I was looking at the map, I was kind of showing my kids like the globe the other day, and we're kind of looking at my trip, and then I was looking at, we'll go across Europe, and that'll be a really fun trip. Like there's a lot of things we want to see over there, and then I realized, I'm like, dude, if I'm in Venice, Italy, like that's really close to going through. Then I'll probably go back and do the Middle East by myself. I don't want to take my family, on that one. But I want to drive through Iran. I think Iran would be cool.
Cool is an interesting way to describe Iran.
I think if you're respectful of the fact that it's a Muslim country and that you take precautions with safety and driving, and you just don't be stupid. You're going to be fine.
I mean, are we shipping the Raptor across the Atlantic?
Coda's
not go. Coda's like, I'm not going.
Tired. She's like, I'm done. I'm out.
I've done my time.
She's a Czech.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, back to her homeland. There you go. That's a good point.
She's 5 years old, man. We should take her back there and find her a boyfriend.
Check her.
So these are your roots.
Side note though, my brother has a Czech German Shepherd, the same.
A male?
Male.
Let's arrange a date, man. That'd be fantastic.
Dude,
what's his name?
Rico.
Yeah,
so like a trained dog. Like we could talk about it after, but it's really interesting.
My father-in-law is a former police officer.
Right,
Black was the dog.
Your father-in-law bragged all the time. He's like, my house will never get toilet papered. Like it never will get toilet paper ever because I have this police dog going out.
It's crazy how obedient they are.
Oh, they're amazing.
Well, I mean, if Coda could spot a car over the hill, like 2
you
miles.
Can see in the videos where you're just giving commands and she knows what to do.
That's awesome.
And then we took her, when we moved to Central America, we took her down there with us, obviously.
Yeah.
And I had a great story on that. So I was on a beach in Panama, and there's like a homeless guy living on the beach. And I think because we're white, he wanted us to pay a fee to go on his beach or something. And I wasn't about to pay his fee. And so he's yelling, he's getting really agitated and really aggressive towards me. And I tell my wife and kids, I'm like, you guys go ahead, get away from this guy. I'm like, I'll just keep between you and him. And so they go walking away, and they're a couple hundred yards away, and I'm keeping about 10 yards away from this guy, and he keeps closing the gap, and I keep backing up, and I'm just ignoring him. Like he's yelling and screaming at me in Spanish, and I don't speak enough to understand what he's pissed off about. But then there's like another like Panamanian family, like on the beach, like a normal guy with his kids and wife. I'm like, hey man, what's this guy's deal? He's like, oh, he's crazy, just ignore him. I'm like, I am. I'm like, but the problem is the dog's about to attack him. The guy didn't know Coda was behind him. So this guy, all of his energy and hatred was like directed towards me. And I'm backing up. I'm not letting this guy in my blind spot. I'm backing up away from him. But then, so I'm watching Coda, and she's pacing like a lion about 10 feet behind this guy, just back and forth, left and right. And you can just see the anger in her. And she's just waiting. They know the difference between normal behavior.
Right.
I mean, you can go to your father-in-law's house with a police dog, and you can wrestle him and play with him and high five him or slap him on the butt or whatever. And the dog's not going to have an issue. You turn aggressive, that dog will eat you. And and Coda, so I told the Panamanian family man, I'm like, hey, the dog's about to get him. And so he says something to the guy in Spanish, about Pedro es muy mal, whatever. And he turned around and sees the dog, tells me to, has his choice words for me, and turned and walked away.
Wow, there you go. That's crazy.
Jump Coda.
They're amazing animals. They really are long. But
absolutely.
If you have to recognize that they're not. You can't get one of these, put them in your house, and then go to work.
No,
40 hours a week,
and
not trading. For the first year of life, you got it. They're a hobby. So.
Right. There's a trail, if you consider, from the bottom of Argentina.
Oh.
All the way up to North America.
Oh yeah, the Pan American Highway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a cool one I've seen some people do over the years.
I've been trying to talk my wife into that for years. And
Really?
she's no interest. She doesn't like the whole.
There's some countries, Colombia and along the border there, that would be kind of crazy.
I mean, because you have to ship your car across the Darien Gap. El Salvador, obviously they made a lot of changes recently, but I mean, El Salvador has issues, and
the Central America portion of that would be a little sketchy.
Yeah.
That's funny that you're like, I take Iran. Yeah. Over like El Salvador.
I would do it and not think twice. It's different. Like when you're by yourself, like your best. I like how Jocko says it. If you ever get in a fight, run. I mean, that guy is a killer, and it's like, so if I'm by myself, you're not going to catch me. No one is. I mean, you're going to have to be a pretty legit athlete to catch me, both in speed and endurance. Like I'm gone. Like if I'm by myself, I don't need anything. When I was in the wilderness, whenever I'd go, hiking away from the car, I'd have my Garmin, clipped on my belt, like on my loop on my pants. And so, hey, if something weird happened and I wasn't by my car and I, had to leave the area, so be it. Leave the area, disappear. I'll be able to get out. And so that's my thing. It's like, if you're in risky stuff, it's like versus if you have, young kids and a wife and you're trying to drag around. But the reality is, thousands of people have done the Pan American Highway without incident.
Sure.
And there's, I hate even saying that because Latin America has, some bad press. And I think it's not necessary. Like Panama, for instance. Panama is a beautiful country, guys. Like it's half the price and half the crime of Costa Rica. And you never know it. Costa Rica does a great job marketing, tourism. But you go down there, have a greght time, and you're never going to have an issue.
What was the impact on your family while you were gone?
It was hard for them. Obviously, also my wife is, all of a sudden a single mom. Yeah. And the funny thing though, man, you read the comments, like, I had a couple of videos go viral on Instagram with, a couple million views or whatever. And the comments are like, yeah, this is why being single is the best. Or like, tell me you're divorced without telling me you're divorced. I'm like, guys, no, like I'm happily married. I lost my wedding ring in the Boise River, behind the Morrison Center. If you got a metal detector, help me out, and I'm just reluctant to buy a new one until I get my old one back or find something sentimental enough that I justify wearing. But no, guys, we're happily married.
That's funny.
So yeah.
And so, but they supported you all the way when you got back. They're just happy for you, all that.
Yeah, it's great. I surprised my daughter was on a sleepover when I came back. Like I came back pretty late at night, and so then I went and picked her up at the sleepover the next day, and it was cool. Like it was like movie moment when she's like, Guy's obviously gone for a month. That's rough on them.
And you did this during October?
Yeah. It's basically the month of October. So yeah,
that's interesting. I mean, what was your overall lesson? Like, what did you learn from it? What would you tell our listeners about the experience overall when you look back and you're introspective about it? What would you say?
It goes. I had the lesson prior, and it just reiterated it, and it just goes like, guys, life is short. Don't let yourself get in a situation where all of a sudden you start thinking about like, man, I just wish I had more time. Don't let yourself get there. Go ahead, buy that boat, sell the house, go take that trip you've always wanted to take, and like I was having a conversation with someone just the other night, and they're like, this is so crazy that you just sold everything and you took off Central America. Like, how do you do that? Like, I'm like, so often people worry about when you're making when you do something big like this, like, what's going to go bad? Like what can happen? What's my opportunity cost? What's all the downside? It's like, guys, what could go right? Wonder if things go really good because of this. Wonder if you become a different person about it, and you just you change your trajectory by 2 degrees. So where will your life be 20 years from now if you changed it just 2 degrees today? And you could do that right away. Like, don't delay. If you have that fishing trip you've been wanting to take with one of your parents, like, don't make it, so often people make the mistake and all of a sudden they start regretting, like, man, I wish I would have gone fishing with my dad or something like this, when it's too late, guys. Like, hey, call your dad, book that damn fishing trip in Alaska. Let's go. Let's do it this weekend. The timing will never be right. So, and that's my lesson that I want to get out.
Yeah. I mean, you can apply that in so many different areas of your life, right? I mean, we have a lot of people that do businesses that, struggle for years and years and years, and then finally they're forced into it or whatever their circumstances are, and they wish they would have done it earlier.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Matt and I talk about it quite a bit. It's like, I love those types of adventures because I love experiences over, anything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where even if you waste some money here or there, you make a bad decision here or there, I mean, you have an experience you can look back on and build your life on and really share with other people versus I just don't think you'll regret things that you do as much as you'll regret things you didn't do.
Exactly.
You know? And so I think about that quite a bit. Matt and I talk about that. So it's a cool inspirational example of how to do that.
And I always look at like, hey, worst case scenario, just, you manage for the worst case scenario. Like how do we get back to net neutral? Like, let's take the example of like, selling everything and moving overseas, like something you've been wanting to do, if that's something you're interested in, right? It's like, okay, yeah, you lose your house, you might not be, and your kids have neighbor friends and they're out of the school. Like worst case scenario, they missed a year of school. They got a huge life experience. Like, one of the lessons I had from Costa Rica, we're in Panama at this time, but my boys, have two boys, their ages, were they like 9 and 11 at the time. And they're just bugging my wife and I. And so I gave them the machete and the dog and a walkie-talkie.
Okay, there you go.
Like, you guys, you go into that jungle and you don't come, because our house kind of like was on the beach, but at the back of it was jungle. I'm like, you guys go into the jungle and don't come back until the sun starts going down. And I'm like, stay away from big bodies of water because there's crocodiles in them. And man, they're out there, they're messing with the monkeys, and the monkeys are like trying to pee on them and breaking off branches and throwing branches at them. And then they see like baskless lizards, or those are the lizards that run across the surface of water.
Oh, cool, yeah.
And they've seen that on wildcats before. But like the biggest thing is they learned how to manage risk. And I mean, they're in Panama, and I we had an incident where we had to go to the local hospital there. It's just some minor stuff. And I told the kids, I'm like, hey, if you guys get hurt, like I'm going to be the one doing the stitches on you. So don't let yourself get hurt. Like, manage yourself, but because of it, like, they know how to manage risk, and that's way more important than a lot of the things that they're teaching.
Writing cursive,
learning where Georgia is on a map, or
exactly right. Like if you can figure out how to manage risk and how to deal with stuff under pressure. I mean, it was a pretty cool experience, for all of them. And so, yeah.
Was this a confidence booster for you?
Doing the trip across the U.S. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm still uncomfortable sleeping alone in the wilderness by myself. I mean, it just feels eerie to me for whatever reason.
I bet.
But just I don't know. I sleep with one eye open, I think. And but yeah, I mean, obviously, it's huge confidence.
Well, I just think when you said that you never, you don't know how much time you have left, and life is short. That's one of the reasons you do it. But I also think like we think of what could go wrong. And I also think one of the thoughts we have is that we're not capable of doing these things. We kind of underestimate our own abilities.
Yeah.
And watching you on this adventure, it's like, there would be a lot of situations where I would be very scared.
Yeah.
And I'm not an off-road, I'm not skilled at that. But it gave me a sense of confidence, like, why couldn't I do that?
Exactly.
Right. And so I think that's one of the things that I took away as a viewer of this was, and hopefully others do too, but there's a lot out there that you can do, and it's way more fun than sitting on your couch doing whatever, right? Just watching TV.
Well, and that's why I created I wanted to be an interactive experience. I don't want my viewers to be passive and just like, kicking on the couch watching this. I want them to, like, when this is over, be like, hey, there's some golden bananas that if you don't have a 4-wheel drive vehicle, there's several of them that you can get to that are basically a paved road, or, easy gravel road that you can take a Tesla on. And it's, there's one by Lakeview, California, I think it is, or Lakeview, Oregon. But yeah, there's some bananas you can go get that are easy, and I just want to get people out, and like, and if you go do that and you spend the weekend at a hotel, or, you're going to have fantastic memories that'll last a lifetime.
Yeah, for sure. Any other questions?
I don't think so. I mean, there's always more questions.
Yeah, for sure.
This has been great.
Yeah.
It really has, Ron. You've been so awesome. And everybody needs to check out Banana Ron.
Yeah, just search Banana Ron on YouTube. And,
if you see Ron Swanson eating a banana, that's
a different one.
That's not me. That's not me.
That's a different one for sure. No, check him out on YouTube. Check him on Instagram, on Facebook. You can email if you're out there collecting videos and pictures of bananas. You can email and upload them, or at yo@bananaron.com. I think it'd be cool to see a compilation of all of those different people going out and searching for those. Appreciate Ron joining us this week, and thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to the Founders Podcast. Be sure to follow the host on Twitter. Search @JordB Hansen and @BrandonMinard to discuss more. Also, be sure to visit thefounderspod.com to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content.